Hello, I'm Joe Galvin, Chief Research Officer for Vistage Worldwide. Welcome to the Vistage CEO Coaching Spotlight, a video series dedicated to exploring the challenges and opportunities facing CEOs and leaders around the globe. In each episode, we'll be speaking with some of the world's best and brightest executive coaches, seasoned mentors who are on the daily leadership climb with business leaders, guiding them to make better decisions and become even more effective leaders. Today, we're speaking with Vistage Chair Eric McMillan about the challenges faced by small and mid-sized business CEOs today, and more importantly, what they are doing about it. Eric chairs a Vistage group in the Chicago area, working with directly over a dozen CEOs. Eric uniquely understands the challenges of the leadership climb. He's a former member who helped launch and then grew a business from zero to 240 million over 15 years before selling in 2021. Eric, it's a pleasure to have you with us on the CEO Coaching Spotlight.
Thank you, Joe. I'm grateful to be here with you today.
Hey, Eric, you've had a long and very interesting and I'm sure challenging climb as you grew that business. Tell us a little bit about one of your most significant leadership challenges.
Yeah, growing the business, we had the opportunity to do an acquisition early on, and or later in the years actually, and it was quite challenging. But we had to integrate a $30 million business that we needed to implement it with just inventory and sales. We brought over only 3 people in that acquisition. So it was quite a tremendous challenge to us in that process. And so that was one of the key areas of challenge for us when we started the business.
So if you look backwards on that now, based on all that you have learned, would you have done the same thing? Or would you have approached it differently based on all you've learned over the years since that?
100% would have done it differently. A lot of pride, a lot of naivete that was there. Thought we could do it. Thought we'd do it out consulting experiences as well. Many lessons learned, and it was quite challenging. But better for it, and learn how to do it for the next round.
So, how do you identify a weakness or maybe just a blind spot like that in the CEOs you're working with to help them see through if maybe they're experiencing some of the things that you learned?
For sure. I mean, I think having the experience of going through that allows me to see it in a view that maybe others don't, especially those that haven't gone down the road before me. And that's really the power of what we have in our group, is that ability to share experiences to help one another. And so that's exactly what I do.
Well, you engage and you work with CEOs every day, right? What's top of mind for them right now? What are the topics and the issues that they're thinking about most?
Yeah, top of mind, I would say it's really a great question. Many of my members have encountered significant growth over the last 3 years. Many are asking questions around scaling for growth and getting intentional about planning for that growth. And they're asking questions like, how do I ensure I have the right business foundation to continue to scale and grow? What do I need to change in order to make that happen? And what does the company need to do to change? What is the right kind of growth to pursue? Like you and I probably both know that not all business is good business, right? And how do I establish tighter, more formal HR process now that we have 50 employees versus the 5 we started out with?
There's a number of companies who had rapid growth as we recovered out of COVID and are trying to absorb that, and others are trying to continue to grow. What do you see the smart CEOs doing about that to absorb that spurt and now continue to grow as the economy slows and then prepare for the next growth cycle?
Right. It's all about managing that change. And we know change is difficult, and we all want to be comfortable and not rock the boat. But, I like to say, as John Maxwell is quoted, change is inevitable and growth is optional. In order to scale for growth, smart leaders intentionally have to manage that change. And it really starts with a growth mindset. So that's what John Maxwell is talking about. It's your choice. You need to embrace a growth mindset. I've seen this dramatically shift several members from a fixed, limited mindset to a growth focus, so they can make the appropriate desired organizational changes that are necessary.
What are some of those key behavioral changes that you see as people shift and they see the opportunity?
A lot of it is a shift in focus. It's being intentional about what that focus is and how you go about it. Everything is important, then nothing is important, right? You really need to get serious on what matters most. Spending time. My members are spending time on working on the business, not in the business. They're intentionally blocking off the calendar. My members are working on improving their prioritization skills. Many of us start a business and don't have all the gifts necessary. So they're improving on how to prioritize, how to tie your company goals and priorities down to the individual level for themselves, but also for their employees, and do it in a way they communicate to everyone in the business. In the same vein, smart leaders show how to eliminate distractions. There's so many things trying to steal our attention. And Joe, I'm sure you know this. If everything in our world, shiny, flashy things, always trying to get our attention. We know that not all business is good business. And so one of my members has recently analyzed his sales to dissect and eliminate bad business that created too much distraction and was consuming an unprofitable imbalance of resources. And so, it ties back to focus. Are you comfortable saying no in order to stay focused on what your true goals are?
So if CEOs are finding and learning how to manage this growth, what are the things they should be thinking about that maybe they're not? What are some of the topics out there that are going to be important to them in the near or midterm?
That's a very great question, Joe. I think the things that they really need to be thinking about are around how to process the thoughts to ultimately make great decisions. The role of the CEO is really what I call the CDM, the chief decision maker. To improve decision-making skills, leaders need to do several things. First, reject shortcuts to growth. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. Like I said, that's where the growth is happening. Leaders need to think about intentionally creating space to work on the business, put on our calendar, like I talked about. They need to challenge their thinking with peer perspective, like you mentioned, like bringing outside experience from others that have gone down that road before them, and with a group that has a growth mindset. Leaders need to think more, get curious, really first seek to understand, not to be understood. Start with the customers, go to your suppliers, ask your employees about, to understand really where their pain points are.
There's so many challenges out there now, and the economy is moving in directions that none of us can anticipate. You talk about so many important issues. Do you have any final thoughts for us as we kind of return to the world and the challenges we're facing?
Sure. Joe, today CEOs are faced with many challenges. Growth, although it's exciting, can bring new headaches and frustrations that need to be overcome. And so leaders have blind spots as they navigate new territories. And my recommendation for all leaders is to find a trusted guide, someone who brings outside perspective, someone who challenges your thinking, someone who has been there before you. As a prior Vistage member, I experienced this firsthand. I'd also recommend growing by helping others. I think this is a beautiful concept. This is what we do in a Vistage CEO group and part of the power of a peer group. It goes along with the African proverb that it really summarizes it well. And that's, if you want to go fast, go alone. And if you want to go far, go together.
Eric, that's such a great mantra that so many folks in our community think about daily. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you being here and sharing your lessons and your thoughts on the Vistage CEO Spotlight. And thank you for watching the Vistage Coaching Spotlight. If you enjoyed this session, be sure to talk about it and share it with colleagues who might find value in it. For more information and guidance on the top issues you're facing as a leader, visit Vistage.com. That's www.vistage.com. Eric, thank you again. Appreciate it. I'm Joe Galvin, Vistage Chief Research Officer. Thank you for watching the Vistage CEO Coaching Spotlight.